from the point of view of accepting this world as real, a vision quest is an altered experience, searching for different ways of connecting with consciousness, different ways of experiencing reality is referred to as altered states of consciousness. But in actuality, reality is the most distorted state of consciousness. We are already in an altered state. Anything we do from here, if the experience is more real, if the draw, the pull towards it is real, in simpler terms, if there is an addiction to experience an altered state, it can be safely assumed that it is not an altered state. It is something more real than the world we are living in. That is why we are drawn toward it. That is why we can fight against our own minds, our own bodies, to try and experience that state. Now, for Mayans, the rituals and the ceremonies they performed were different ways of connecting to an altered state. They did this mainly through fasting, through sleep deprivation, and consumption of mushrooms, which they called flesh of the gods. It is only in the modern world that deeper experiences that give us an alternate perspective, an alternate vision, is looked at as something negative, as something devious, pleasure-seeking tactic of the mind, of the body. Because in our world, we have assumed what reality is. We have accepted the dream as our reality. Hence, anything that affects our perception of this so-called reality is looked at skeptically, even criticized, condemned, and in certain cases regarded as evil, illegal. Experimenting with alternate states of consciousness is the very core of a religious experience. What is it that you are trying to experience through rituals, through prayer, through fasting, through long hours of meditative silence, depriving the body of its sense pleasures, trying to turn the attention of the mind inward? In all so-called religious, or another term is spiritual experiences, you are trying to connect with something that is there, but you cannot see it. You have to somehow accidentally fall into it to experience it. But the term vision quest is a misnomer. Altered state of experience is not a vision. It is the clearing of the vision. Many a times, you don't experience the absolute clarity, because that takes deeper practice, longer connection and understanding of the mind and the body. More often than not, what we experience as alternate states using some of these external means is the blurring of the vision of life that we are holding on to. You are still experiencing something. You still have a body, you still have a mind, you still have dreams. But there's also something more. There is a presence. There is an expansion of awareness. There is the breaking of the boundaries between the body and the mind, between the mind and the world. You are entering a pure dream space, the unconstructed space where everything is being created, where there's no difference between reality and dream. An altered state is simply a state in between dream and reality. What's the difference between dream and reality? What you're experiencing is exactly the same. It is not what you are experiencing that separates the dream from reality. It is always how you are experiencing it. Same thoughts, same desires, same fears. The way you experience it changes it from being a dream to reality. The change happens through consciousness, the level of consciousness, the level of awareness. That is why it is called an altered state of consciousness. You're not altering the contents of the mind. You're not changing thoughts. In fact, you're not changing anything. You are simply sinking a little deeper to experience a part of you that extends above and beyond the mind and the body, which is the only thing that extends above and beyond the mind and the body, consciousness. An altered state of consciousness is when you are experiencing this presence as something more than the mind and the body. Every thought that is resonating in that space creates a new experience. In a way, you are observing the process of creation. This is the difference between the dream, the reality, and the altered state. In the dream, you are not aware of the dreaming process. Hence, you are not available to the process of creation. It is just a dream. You are asleep and the dream is just happening. In the so-called reality, the experience of reality, you are available to the experience, you are aware, you are conscious, but only after the experience is created. Never before. You only respond to experiences. In this world that we have accepted as reality, we don't sit and watch the process of creation. We don't observe that place from where thoughts are emerging, how thoughts are being created, how ideas are being created. We are so lost in this dream world that we wake up only when we are jolted by an experience. We wake up to the body when we are jolted by pain. We wake up to the mind when we are jolted by reality. Otherwise, without that jolt, we can continue to be lost in the mind for as long as we want. And yet we call this wakeful state. How is it a wakeful state when something has to happen, something has to remind you to come to the present moment? Otherwise, you could be blissfully dreaming. Your body is in one place, your mind is somewhere else. And it's the same with the body. Throughout the day, you're not aware of the body at all. But if you suddenly fall down, if you hurt yourself, immediately your body becomes visible. So, in the so called real world, consciousness is available, self awareness is there, but it's always a peripheral phenomenon. It comes later as a reaction to things. An altered state is somewhere in between where you are actually available to the dream and the so called reality. The part of reality that makes it real, which is you and your awareness, is present. Because if you're totally unconscious, if a drug knocks you out completely, it's not an altered state. You've just lost consciousness. When you wake up, you will know nothing about what has happened. So you have to be there. You have to be experiencing it. That awareness of the dream, that lucidity of that experience, turns it into an altered state. Now, why such craving? Why is it a spiritual experience? Why, for the Mayans, magic mushrooms were flesh of the gods? Were they delusional? Or is there something we are missing in the deeper understanding of an altered state? Is an altered state a glimpse of eternity, a glimpse of truth, a glimpse of life as it is? Maybe because we are so lost in the world of thoughts, in the world of our dreaming, that when we get to certain states accidentally, it is so different. It is so pure. It is intoxicating. In other words, we are being touched by something more real, more true than the world we are experiencing. What if it is an experience of nothingness? The closer you get to the experience of nothingness, the more blissful the experience. Why should nothingness be the most enjoyable of experiences? It's because our body is nothing but pain. Every moment, the body is in some form of pain, some discomfort, on so many levels. There is the actual physical weight of the body, and then there are the sensations of the body that we recognize as aliveness, which are nothing but disturbances, and then the environment constantly trying to damage the body. If you don't do anything with the body, just walk naked in nature. When you come back, you will not be the same person. Parts of you would have given parts of you to nature. Body is constantly battling on the inside, battling on the outside. It's a war zone. How can this not create a constant undercurrent of pain and discomfort that you have become accustomed to, which you call something? Even when you're not thinking about the body, even when you're not looking at the body in the mirror, you know you have a body. How do you know it? Do you know it through pleasure, or do you know it through pain and discomfort? It's always through pain and discomfort. So which means the body is something. It's a pain center. If an altered state of consciousness can take you away from the body, give you an experience of aliveness, consciousness, independent of the body, the purer that experience, the quieter that experience, the stiller that experience, the more enjoyable it is. In fact, we have a separate word to designate that enjoyment. It is not even enjoyment. We call it bliss. And the ultimate state of bliss, we call it orgasm. Orgasm is an experience of nothingness. There is no direct way of experiencing orgasm unless you have gone through a conscious process of withdrawing from the body, which is what a spiritual practice is, which is what meditation is. Meditation takes time. It takes effort. But you know the objective. The objective of meditation is not to see a vision. Altered state of consciousness is not imagination. It is a deeper experience of reality. It is the exact opposite of imagination. When somehow, through some process, your senses and sensations are numbed to a point where you are experiencing fewer thoughts and more of the mind, the very space that you call the mind, that is an altered state.